While a lot of games do get released in English, a language I think I understand, many games don't. Forever trapped behind the Tower of Babel-esque nightmare that is language barriers, never to see a release outside of the Japanese language. Now, luckily, a lot of fans have been able to utilize their skills and knowledge to translate and patch games into English. If I could suck their dick, I would, because without that, there would be so many games, such as something like Somabringer, that would be completely impenetrable to me. But when it comes to the games that haven't received that treatment yet, it's a really rough experience to go through Japanese games, because I don't know Japanese. Some genres of games aren't as badly affected by the lack of understanding them, such as shmups. You don't need to speak a lick of Japanese to play through and enjoy Mushihime-sama Futari. Language isn't much a requirement to understand the concept of shoot and not get shoot. Genres like adventure games or visual novels are practically impossible to go through without being able to understand Japanese. At least they would be if it weren't for various methods and workarounds to comprehend and play through some Japanese games. And hey, found this listing for a game called Moonlight Syndrome, Japanese only PS1 game for 22 bucks? Shit, I'll pick that up. So now that I have this game, why don't we have a talk about playing Japanese only games? Moonlight Syndrome belongs to a family of games referred to as the Kill the Past games. The Kill the Past umbrella of games are directed by Suda51 and share common themes, motifs, and sometimes characters. Moonlight Syndrome being a part of the Kill the Past family is what enticed me in wanting to play it. Here's the fun thing about that. Moonlight Syndrome is the only one of these games to not be in English. Okay, I know, there's gonna be some fucker being all like,
Actually, you're forgetting about these two Twilight Syndrome games.
and I don't give a fuck. The issue there, for me at least, is that Suda51 barely had any input in those games as he came into it late in its development. So while I wouldn't be opposed to being able to play those games in English, I'm vastly more interested in Moonlight Syndrome, as that's the Syndrome game that ties into Suda51's later works. Anyway, Moonlight Syndrome don't do the English. Fuck. What the hell do I do about that? While waiting for the game to arrive, I had looked into various methods to potentially get to the point where I could at least vaguely understand what's going on in the game. And as the date of delivery came sooner and sooner, I got more and more excited to not only go through this game, but to also try out these methods, because if one of these methods worked for this game, then I'd be able to apply it to many others. Here's the first method I tried. Did you know that the Google Translate application on phones are able to use the phone's camera to do live translations? I knew going in that this was going to be absolute trash and worked oh so poorly, but I was curious nonetheless at the level of poverty I'd be witness to. This is bad. Oh, this is bad. It would be practically impossible to go through a game like this with this shit of a method. Now, this feature does have its places and uses, but I doubt playing through a game in Japanese was what was in mind when this feature was being made. Just the constant changing of the words and none of the words being accurate 99% of the time would result in such a headache and ball ache had I gone through this method. Fuck that, curiosity satiated, moving on. After that failed attempt, I tried out a feature that RetroArch offers, AI translation. There are videos showing it off in action where the emulator will translate what is on screen, either by text-to-speech or through pictures, and I was curious if I was able to replicate that. This method hooks up RetroArch to one of two translation services APIs. The first, Google. It requires a credit card. Fuck that, I'm out. Scratch what I said earlier, this method hooks up to one and only one translation services API, that being Z-Translate. Sign up, get an API, you slap that in the RetroArch, and it doesn't work. Well, shit. Okay then, apparently it might work if you utilize VG Translate. I don't know all the technical shit behind all this, but this apparently acts as a sort of middleman between RetroArch and Z-Translate. And that fucking failed too. Cool, that's just cool. New method. There's this thing called Universal Game Translator, which is an OCR, optical character recognition. Keep note of that term, it'll be important again in a second, that can hook up to any emulator and do the translations. Universal Game Translator also requires an API from Google. New method! That's when I stumbled on the Capture to Text, another OCR. The way Capture to Text works is that you are able to rectangle select Japanese characters anywhere on screen, and that will read the characters and copy them to clipboard. Sick! All you need to do now is paste it into an online translator, and it's practically worthless for this. See, Capture to Text was developed primarily for manga. In manga, text is simple black on white for the most part, and it does fine for that application. But even with some manga panels where it gets visually complex, Capture to Text struggles to be able to read the characters. And as you can see with Moonlight Syndrome, it doesn't have a solid colored text box behind the text. So Capture to Text be struggling. But this world of OCRs where it can highlight things on screen seems really useful. Is there any other software similar to Capture to Text but is able to recognize the characters better? Yes, there is. I happily welcome to my life with wide open arms ShareX. I only found this through this YouTube video, and this video was a fucking lifesaver as it not only introduced me to ShareX, but also ran through a whole setup process to easily do anything involving OCR, including video games. Using ShareX, I select characters and it copies them to my clipboard, and this guy suggested using a clipboard reader so that I can see everything that gets copied to it. This is useful as it shows the history of all copied text and what is currently copied. And from there, just copy the text into an online translator. Holy shit, this actually works! For the most part. While ShareX does a great job being able to recognize characters, it's not perfect. Due to the font used in Moonlight Syndrome and how the characters are sometimes on complex backgrounds, it can often get characters wrong. For example, she is read as parenthesis. This will often make the translation wrong and drastically slows down the process of playing, having to correct everything. Not only that, an OCR doesn't work on audio.
それに、私は直接関係することはできない。あなた方の生活圏内を侵すことはできないのです。
Man, I wish it was as easy to just hook up something like Textract to an emulator and play like that. Between ordering and receiving Moonlight Syndrome, I had 3 weeks of waiting time. 3 weeks is a lot of time. Enough time to play through a game, that's for sure. While doing research on methods to play through Moonlight Syndrome, I came across a tool called Textractor which can hook up to a visual novel and will not only read the characters on screen, but provide the translations as well. Pretty sick. But I needed to see it in action. I needed a Japanese-only visual novel. And that's when I grabbed Class Zenin Majida Yuri. Watashi tachi no rezu opai wa anata no mono joshi zenin shiofuki keikaku. Or, the entire class is seriously lesbian or less tits are yours, we plan to make every girl ejaculate. I'm a degenerate, I know. Anyway, I had wanted to go through this VN for years, according to when I downloaded some of the CG, at least since 2016. Back then I was thinking maybe some group will come along and translate this VN one day. I mean, the Sonohana Beer games got English patched, so why not this? And years passed, and I waited, and nothing came. But this was the perfect opportunity. Not only to go through this VN I've wanted to check out for years now, but to also test out Textractor. Probably one of the best aspects Textractor has going for it is how easy it is to set up. Download, extract, and open up that application and you're already almost done with the setup. You gotta make sure the game you want to hook Textractor to is running, and once it is, you just click attach to game and click on the game. It's that easy. It just works out of the gate and it's so convenient. Finally able to play through this VN I've been wanting to check out for so long. I get off the taxi and look up at the school building. Oh, the prestigious girls of school I'd longed for. The appearance that makes you feel history and tradition. Oh, nice. Above all, there are a lot of pretty girls dressed in cute uniforms. The sweet and lovely scent of the young ladies melts into the refreshing air of the morning. Oh, just taking a deep breath will make you happy. One after another, my favorite ladies dive into the main gate. Nyafu. And now I was dressed in this Hanazona uniform. Yes, from today, this school building is my boobs harem. Declare in your heart. Treat the white waves that shatter in the background. I burp and go through... Burp? And go through the main gate without giving out a fierce boobs harem declaration. As a member of a prestigious girls' school, I have to be graceful first. Maybe a nice sister will fix Thailand in front of the fountain. What the fuck? Okay, there's a lot to break down here already. This VN is a couple of things. 1. This shit is aggressively gay. 2. This shit is aggressively horny. Then I will take a mold from Yuzu-chan. Yuzu-chan stares at me. That's why it's the store manager's boobs pudding mold. Take the mold from Yuzu-chan's boobs. Yeah, I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do such an embarrassing thing. Yuzu shook his head at such a speed. Every scene is fucking like this. Class Zenin is a slice-of-life visual novel where mundane shit happens, but then the main character, Akira, is all like, but boobs though, I need to feel them up. Every single scene. But this game is also another thing. Class Zenin is Nukige in its purest form. During my time reading through Class Zenin, it didn't take long for me to realize that the translation provided by Textractor is pretty fucking broken, and the reasoning for that is that it utilizes Google Translate. And some of these translations can be weird and rough, and I just wish that Textractor just uses something like DeepL at least instead. Okay, I know you can technically use DeepL with Textractor, but there's API issues or whatever, so I didn't look much into it. And I know that DeepL has its own issues. It is just machine translation after all. But I often found myself needing to keep a window with DeepL open as I read through the VN to double check a lot of the lines. Maybe a nice lady will fix my tie in front of the fountain. Maybe a nice sister will fix Thailand in front of the fountain. Elena also has a question. Have you ever been to Finland? Arena also asks Death. Is Finland a masquerade you've been to? It's been hamburger since last night, so I'm a little bored. I've been hamburger since last night, so I'm a little tired of it. It makes me want to kiss it. I want to chew. That's a big deal. It's hard and it's a shit. Oh, I'm such a jerk for even doing this to Meiru, who knows nothing about it, but a lioness will go all out to hunt a rabbit. Oh, he rubs up against Rinko with a sweet voice. Rinko rubs against Rinko with a spoiled voice. Kyoko, who has squirted, shrugs her head in embarrassment. Kyoko, who has squirted, shrugs shruggically. I'm going numb in the pit of my stomach. If the pleasure continues to build up at this rate, I'll be the one who gets to come. The back of my stomach will be numb. If the pleasure is accumulated as it is, I will be unilaterally squid. I'm going to feel it, Rinko. I can feel for my pussy so much that it's making me come. What's with all the confusion? What is this, confusing? It sure fucking is. And that is only a sample of what kind of shit I had to read and parse through when going through this VN. It's not even all the issues on display when going through the machine-translated version of this VN either. More often than not, gender and pronouns in general is just completely wrong and can lead to a confusing experience as to who is doing what. She was an aggressive girl. He was such an aggressive girl. She likes to have her lips licked. He seems to like being able to lick his lips. It snuggles up to me. I snuggle up to me. Hearing my reply, Meiru rubs her face against my crotch even more. After hearing my reply, Meiru rubs her face further into her crotch. Mocha's fingers are spreading my pussy. I can't see it from me, but I can feel Mocha's eyes on me. Mocha's fingers are spreading my dick. I can't see it, but I can feel Mocha-chan's eyes. And holy fuck the amount of times I've had to read the word dick. Just letting you know, there is 0 guys in this VN whatsoever and even less cocks. So whenever the translation says dick, that's just Google Translate fucking up and mistaking pussy for penis. I was just touching her tits and kissing her, but my pussy was getting wet. I just touched my boobs and chewed, but my dick got wet. Pull up your pants and the part of your twin-tailed girl's pussy that was touching my pussy touches my pussy. Pull up your pants and the part that was touching Twin Tails' dick touches my dick. The electricity of pleasure flows all over my pussy. Pleasure electricity flows from the dick. My pussy is getting debauched too. I'm going to get rid of my dick. It's over my pajamas, but my pussy is breathing on it and flooding. It's from the top of my pajamas. My dick is breathing. When I rub my face against her pussy, I can smell a strong twang. When I rub my face against the dick, it smells strong and tsundere. I feel like I'm doing a disservice to the legibility of Glass Zennin. While a lot of that was there, it is really easy to get the general gist of what was going on in the dialogue and in the scenes. And I'm going to chalk up that ease to the simplicity of this VN. As I've mentioned, this is a slice-of-life nukige in a high school setting. You're not going to get a whole lot of complicated terminology and jargon or complex sentence structures or much happening in general. What's being said and discussed is simple, so the machine translation is going to have simpler time understanding what is going on and relaying it as best as it can. It's also hardcore in the nukige. It doesn't give a fuck about story or even the characters. That's all there's an excuse to get to the sex scenes so you can get to busting nuts. And while I've got nothing against the nukige genre, it being one is detrimental to itself when you factor in its simplicity and its length. With it being simple, sure, I've addressed the positives there, but that also comes with the additional baggage of being boring as fuck. Glass Zennin's got 13 fucking girls to flesh out. That's a lot of characters not to give a shit about. When there's that many characters and a goal and setting designed for simplicity, the writing relies on character tropes. But not even good ones at that. Every single character is just a watered down version of their trope. But who gives a fuck about good characters, am I right? Fuck that, gotta go give some kuni to the chuny. And the other issue, it's long as fuck. So you've got boring shit characters and you have to spend so much time with them. How much time? 30 fucking hours. Fucking 30. So while reading through this jank machine translation is fun for the first couple of hours, it gets so fucking mind-numbing. And cock-numbing too if you're actually using this VN for its intended purpose. So each of the 11 girls has 4 sex scenes each. There's a teacher threesome route with 4 sex scenes as well, and a harem ending with an additional 5 sex scenes. That's 53 optional sex scenes, plus a mandatory fingering at the beginning of the game. Holy fuck, that's a lot. And I'm just glad that I was able to actually find somewhat of a guide on how to get the harem ending since it's not the most obvious method. 2 guys on the visual novel database posted how to get both the teacher threesome and harem endings. Issue is, the guides are technically incomplete. They don't mention how to get the sexless ending, which is fairly easy to figure out how to get it once you know how the game is structured. So there's 11 girls and there are 11 opportunities to hang out with the girls of your choice. Just pick each once and once only and there you go, the sexless ending. While I'm so thankful that there were posts providing guides on those VN's endings, more often than not, for untranslated Japanese games like this, there's either fuck all no documentation on it, or, in this case, incomplete documentation on it. This often requires me to figure out this shit for myself, sometimes of which can be obtuse as hell, like in the case of the PS1 game, Serial Experiments Lain. The way Serial Experiments Lain is structured makes it impossible for it to receive the English patch treatment. Most of the in-game text is already translated. The issue is that the game is entirely audio files.
あれだけだし、もう見たくない。なんであんな自分が思い浮かぶんだろう。
So, you really can't do shit with that. Except that there has been people to create website versions of the game that feature subtitles. And while that is a legitimate method to go through the game, and a better one at that, I didn't want to take this route when I played it. My circumstances were unique compared to most people, as I wanted to create a 100% video LP of that game, so I had to go through the PS1 version, not the website version. Now you may be asking yourself, but the game is Japanese audio files, how the hell did you play through that game? Thanks to some rad, crazy motherfuckers out there, there exists a 695-page PDF that translates everything. Well, almost everything. It's been years since I've done my LP of the game, so I don't remember the specific examples, but there were a couple of audio files in the game that weren't in that PDF, but was translated on the website version of the game. But what an amazing fucking resource regardless. So I had a method on how to read everything in the game, including the TAC files? Where the fuck are they? And this is where the zero documentation aspect comes into play. I cover everything about this game in more detail in my LP of it, so if you want that, go watch it. But I had to figure out for myself that you have to actually beat the game in order to unlock the TAC and other files as well, because fucking nowhere explains anything about how this game works. Okay, that problem down. Now, because I did a 100% LP of the game, I need a checklist of where every audio file is so I don't miss a single one. That's when I found a scan of the official guide at the time. Now I actually own it, but that's besides the point. That lists off where every file is. Cool, I'll just copy all that. Once copied, make sure that everything is right, and oops! Turns out the fucking official guide is wrong. But it's wrong in a weird way. When I made my checklist, I could have copied the file names from two sections. Section 1 organizes the files by location, and Section 2 organizes the files by file type. I opted to base my checklist on the section categorized by type and found out that it contained 30 mistakes. Some of them being sloppy mistakes too. It wasn't until making this video that I learned that those mistakes don't exist in a location-based section and that everything there is correct. How the hell does this guide contain the same information twice, but get it wrong the second time? With that fixed, it's now actually time to play the game. The way to go about playing through and understanding what is going on in the game is by having the PDF open up as you play through it. The flow of steps start when you hover over a file you want to listen to. Before clicking on it, you look at the name, go to the PDF, Control F and type it in. There you go. Everything is already translated, ready to experience the story of Serial Experiments Lain for the PS1. Okay, now back to the oral sex of a court of justice. Now, I've hit a crossroads. I had a couple of options presented in front of me. The first was to just power through with the same method I had been using, which is slow as fuck. And if that doesn't work, then option 2 is just give up on trying to understand what's being said and just go through the game, not knowing anything being said. I opted for the latter. I played some more, skipping the text, wanting to see what else this game has to offer. Moonlight Syndrome is structured like a kinetic visual novel. It's conversation heavy, it's linear, with the only difference from a traditional kinetic VN is that you walk from conversation to conversation. I for one have zero issues playing kinetic VNs, so long as the presentation and the story and writing is on point. And from what I've seen, it looks cool. You've got CG model close-ups ranging from pretty nice looking for the most part to the occasional monster face in all its PS1 beautifully dithered and dated CG rendering and some atmospherically spooky bits. But with this genre, what's more important is the story and writing, and I found it really hard to get into Moonlight Syndrome because I don't understand what's happening. I just mashed through dialogue, I looked at close-ups, and walked from room to room with not a whole lot of context of what's happening or why. And that lack of understanding hits even harder when you're thrown a map and don't know where to go in it. And seeing that is where I called it quits. I would like to understand what's happening, which would require some sort of fan translation or patch or an official remake. Because I'm sure what's happening is interesting. I mean, those two people did light themselves on fire. Why is that? I don't know because I can't know, and I'm afraid I'll never know. Maybe one day.
Here comes a new challenger.
While editing, I found out that somebody going by Izzy B is actually working on translating Moonlight Syndrome. She started this back in 2013 with the first 5 chapters of the game, and after an 8-year hiatus, she came back with what she has of Chapter 6 so far. Straight up, expect a follow-up video if Izzy B finishes their work or if someone else picks up after her. Maybe that one day will be sooner than I expected. This video started out as a video on Moonlight Syndrome, but I honestly don't have much to say on it. I spent more time trying to figure out what would be the best way to play it than actually playing it. And I've concluded that the best methods are to learn Japanese or hope for some translation, official or otherwise. And that's a shame. I wanted to play this game. It looks cool, I like Suda51 games, but despite it being in my possession, it is far outside my grasp. But that's not the message you should take out from this. The tools exist. There are methods to get an understanding of what's going on in Moonlight Syndrome if you're willing to put in the time and effort. And not just Moonlight Syndrome either. Many other games, such as the one discussed in this video. The barrier that is language can't block you with the right tools and methods.